This morning I wake up quite early and I was browsing on the website. So I checked the 45 seconds video on what is a workspace, just to introduce in a friendly atmosphere what we have to discuss as a serious problem. Marco, sentati dove capita. Meanwhile, the technical, that is not myself. Now, audio, we are checking.
Business success lies in helping employees do their best work and better serve their customers. In the new digital workplace, tools, places, work styles, and skills all need to come together for optimal productivity and happiness. A key cog in this complex wheel is a digital workspace. What is a digital workspace? A digital workspace is borderless and transforms the employee experience. It's an integrated technology framework designed to manage and deliver apps, data, and even multiple desktops through a single interface. It allows workplace flexibility. It even organizes and automates activities for people to focus on their most impactful work. Not only do digital workspace solutions unlock innovation and engage nomadic workers, they can deliver better business results. The benefits of a digital workspace are many, but here are the top 3. 1. Transform the employee experience to keep talent focused and activated. 2. Increase business agility to continually find and capture the highest value opportunities through fast-paced adoption of innovative technology. 3. Simplify technology to make life easier and work more secure for users and IT managers.
45 seconds before I introduce myself, Franco Scolari. I am an engineer. I am a techno lover. I do love technology since a lot of years. And since 12 years, I'm leading Polo Tecnologico Alto Adriatico. That is a place where innovation stimulates, provoke, make mistakes, jumps and whatsoever. Something similar in what we have in Trieste National and Big, that is Area Science Park. Very similar to Trentino Sviluppo, that is present with some colleagues, and also with what is expanding in Europe. We are devoted to innovation, process innovation, cultural innovation, product innovation, and with 250 persons working in the base in Pordenone, another 50 persons working here in Trieste, and we are spreading around Italy with a specific competence in digitalization of processes and industry. We are quite successful with our friends, customers, and partners. Summing up, the model that we adopted since 1 year is KIBS. We are a knowledge-intensive business services. That seems to be something archetype or magic. So it's not necessary in organization, because we think that via a dominated chaos, we can generate innovation. Now, I introduce the 4 panelists of this morning with a fil rouge or leitmotiv. Digitalization is invading, pervading, hybridizing our life. Hybridizing means that we melt humans with digital. But this is not for everybody, because unfortunately, the gap between more efficient persons, more efficient workers is enlarging this gap due to the so-called digital gap. How we try to avoid non-inclusion. Today, workers, persons that are not digital, they risk to be out of the business, out of the work, out of the society. they lose friends without social networks. I'm maybe joking a little bit. The four panelists that I will ask to present their idea, their doubts, because sometimes we come in meeting like this looking for precise answers, and we get out, if the meeting is fruitful, with a lot of doubts. Because the future and the near future is not at all predictable. We assisted in 2 years of incredible changes. We are assisting since 65 days into an incredible changement. We are moving, we have to prepare ourselves to have warm clothes for winter, because we are not replacing gas as we need it. So the uncertainty of the future are important. But we have a professor coming, professor of lawyer and rights of labor, is correct in English, rights of labor, more or less. But labor lawyer. Riccardo Salomone is president of the Agency of the Labor Market of the Provincia di Trento. Anyhow, he works in Bologna, he works all over, and I make short the CV because it takes more or less all the minutes he will talk to us. Then we will have Alexandra Seskova. You will be the last one. Fine, coming. You will summing up, despite of the fact of your general lady should come first, but you will conclude. You will conclude. The second will be Grégoire Feit, coming from Grenoble. He is a geometric professor, but he is also, let me say, checking how is the divide between urban and rural areas. Marco Olivotto will, that I know since at least 13 years, we have been working together and we are reinforcing our relationship, leads a special training center named Lean Experience Factory. Is a joint venture, Confindustria Alto Adriatico and McKinsey, to make experience in digitalization of a factory, of an enterprise. So checking the new technology use cases for something that I don't want to leave out, that is intelligent labor can be 100% digitalized. But manual labor that is not stupid is different than making algorithms. What we do in a factory, because we cannot disperse, we cannot have a fully distributed factory. We have to concentrate some labor force. And this is a task that I like to afford, and Marco will tell us something. Alexandra will conclude with an overall, and I hope that we come out with some indication what we can do to reduce the gap, to be more inclusive, to reach a higher productivity. Riccardo.
So, thank you, Chair, and good morning.
I give you a hit when you have 1 minute.
And good morning to you all. Let me begin by thanking the Digital Alps Group for the invitation and the opportunity to contribute to this conference. It's a pleasure for me to take the floor today as the acting president of the Agency of Work of the Autonomous Province of Trento, on behalf of the Autonomous Province of Trento, and also I would say on my own behalf as a lawyer, as a professor of law, as a researcher at the University of Trento. Yes, my topic is regulation. I'm a lawyer, but I hope not regulation in a standard, in a red tape regulation, in a standard way. While gathering your inputs and trying to answer your interesting question, I make three main points. Point number one probably is the most important. First of all, I'd like to stress a fundamental methodological issue. I think our understanding of the main topic of the conference, unleashing the potential of digitalization, is enriched by different approaches and style of research or policy making. From my point of view, lawyers and other experts should put together and mix more and more the diversity of their approaches, instead of rejecting what is done in other disciplines. To put it simply, with regard my field of research, labor law was and still is a way of regulating life of people, life of companies, and considering the high potential of digitalization, should we therefore now change the scope of labor law? I don't think so. But I think there is a concrete risk for regulation in this field of being rigid, poor, or useless in relation to the future needs of companies and workers. To minimize these risks, interdisciplinary approaches are crucial, really crucial. And this is the reason why, Franco, I'm interested in a kind of regulation which could be a much more modern day tool for regulating life and protecting workers. I mean, employees and autonomous workers and enterprises in a digital world. It is a type of regulation strictly linked to the active labor market policies approach, which is basically interdisciplinary. As we know, not all companies, not all sectors, not all workers are equally affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. But some law and policies, approaches, strategies have become apparent. For instance, which kind of assistance is more effective for different types of job seekers now? I think that recent studies are showing that low-cost interventions that provide the tailored labor market information can improve search behavior and employment outcomes for some job seekers, even in the absence of labor-intensive counseling or monitoring. And vocational training and job search assistance program could use digital tools even remotely for different workers and to respond to the needs of different type of enterprises or the needs of skill of different enterprises. And this is for sure an interdisciplinary path, an open field for research or policymaker of different fields of action. Here I like to mention new project we are carrying on in Trento with the support of the Politecnico of Turin, and we are trying to design, and for designing is of course important to have engineers, for instance, and then to introduce on a general basis, and for this the lawyer perspective is fundamental, introduce on a general basis a digital work folder. In other words, a digital personal job plan for individual job seekers, which focuses on concrete activities. Components include registration of CV, matching activities, access to e-learning modules, and other job finding activities. Hopefully, the digital work folder is going to be the main communication platform between job seekers and advisors performing in the employment centers. Such data and activities can be monitored individually via dashboard. And this dashboard is at the same time a tool for a complete and general monitoring of personal e-folders for all the employment centers of the province. But there is another important point I would like to focus on. So the pandemic not only boosted digital transformation, but also increased potential productivity for specific sector, jobs and competences or occupations. This trend is going to be intensified by the PNRR framework, and digital transition is one of the key pillars of the PNRR. But this trend will make digital skills increasingly necessary at all levels. In short, digital in a large sense, competence in a large sense is a fundamental challenge for social growth and economic development now and in the future. From my point of view, this goal is achievable only if two basic conditions are met. Condition number one, our educational and training systems are going to reorganize to cover properly the increasing different needs of different digital competencies. And condition number two, all our public administration are going to conceptualize, redefine, and digitally reorganize all the different services they provide. To this end, within the autonomous province of Trento in March 2022, after 1.5 years of meetings, hearings, and discussion with hundreds of actors and experts, the social partners of the province and the province itself signed an innovative post-pandemic pact, a social pact, an agreement, a collective agreement. So the local pact is rooted in the final document of the State General of Labour. Thanks to the contribution of different fields, of experts of different fields, the final pact highlights two main challenges: transition of people and community development, and focusing on different topics. And for instance, transition to green jobs, or and this is, in my opinion, is the most interesting thing we can do in our future: transition to e-health or to digitalization of social assistance services. And new skills and training needs are emerging in Trentino, and all of these aspects will have a relevant impact affecting both the supply and demand sides of the labor market. I would like to mention one of the main proposals launched by the experts with the final document of the State General of Work. So the basic idea is to create a digital public space, so a sort of a platform to collect data and figures for integrated analysis, with the aim at upgrading skills and matching local labor market needs. In short, it's a matter of building a digital bridge between the educational system and the labor market, and joining this bridge with another one linked to companies, jobs, and development at local level. So the Digital Bridges project is a data space of administrative information and elements from the educational system, from the COBS communication, from the employers to the public administration, and then the communication from IMSS and data and so on, adding relevant national and why not international data like Alma Diploma, Alma Laura, ISTAT, Unioncamere, and so on. And the platform aims at integration of data from the web spaces, from matching demand and supply of jobs, from the employment centers, databases of job seekers, profiling information services, then training providers, social services, third sectors, entities, employment agency for upskilling and reskilling paths, or social partners and bilateral organizations like the interprofessional funds. So basically, the platform could help entrepreneurs and the people. Could help entrepreneurs, for instance, how do I identify my market? What kind of market am I facing in this phase? Or how and where will I have to act if I want to export? And as well as the people, for instance, providing families and with information on school choices and university paths, quantifying the probability of being employed in a specific sector in a number of years, as well as the level of salary and so on. So the platform will be based on data science and artificial intelligence to focus on the current situation and the evolution of the labor market. But the platform, starting from the current situation through predictive models, allows also analysis of different scenarios and provide tools to evaluate effects of different policies in order to support data-driven decisions. Or the platform supports analysis for intervention in the short term. So for instance, the mismatch, matching supply and demand, or shortages in the labor market in key sectors, and hopefully in a medium long term. And training for innovation, for instance, support to economic development, tuning of training needs, and so on. So thank you for your attention.
Wow. Because it's the first time that a lawyer invite an engineer to
collaborate.
to collaborate. This is absolutely unique. By the way, I noticed that you are, at least you have some friends, engineers, because your structure is recognized. You introduced the theme of rules and regulation that is typical by a lawyer. I used to say that innovation is a law infringement that had a good result. And when I stated this, the region that is my shareholder had to admit, of course, Edison invented some lamps, breaking the laws or at least common sense. Your idea or proposal of a digital public space is definitely correct. There are plenty of institutions, persons working on digital public space, but the value of data and the value of public space is related to the number of data you have. So if you do this at the level of the province of Trento, is good, but it's a little bit limited. And if you want to expand, at least at the national level, it's a never-ending story, because interoperability is a dramatic limit one hospital to the other hospital. You move your data e-health and nobody is capable to read one side from the other. How you think that we can get out from it?
I think it's impossible to reach this.
Ask to an engineer.
I think we have to.
I disagree, and this is a sense of.
No, I think we have to work bottom up with a bottom up approach. So we have to try to do that, starting from at local level, starting from local level, and then trying to with a bottom up approach to have some collaboration between regions, between different areas, and then try to build up a more and more big network. That's the only way we can do.
We will. Okay. Your proposal that are using a lot of conditions and situation is to look for the best practice and to export. And this is quite a long process, because there are a lot of brains, and the good brains are jealous of their own brain. I am more positive than you. You said it's impossible, and much more with an example. 3 months ago, we discovered that in Italy, there is a unique anagrafe, how you say anagrafe? Data for residents. My residence, my name, my family state is unique and available digitally from any municipality. Yeah. This is the first example that my friends, and he was a customer of mine when he was in MetroWeb, in Fastweb. He decided centrally not to look for interoperability, but to make a single data space in Italy. And it functioned perfectly. Did you try to have your?
Yeah. No.
So I hope that you mentioned PNRR. To be successful must be centralized. And the region must operate, not think. They must do it. Instead, we will never finish. We have 4 years to finish the projects.
Yeah, I agree with you. From this point of view, I agree with
second, you. Success. Thank you very much. You will have a second round. Gregoire. Thank you also for the timing.
Hello, thank you for your invitation. I'm Grégoire Fett. I'm working in Grenoble University, and for 5-6 years I've been a vice president of my university, delegated to develop the relationship between the university and the territories, all the territories. Continue to speak about bridges, but territorial bridges, because well, speaking about the territorial gap, and in terms of access to skill for economic development. Just one word, I prepared my communication before getting the question that Franco asked, are urban and rural spaces melted by digital? But in fact, the experience I'm going to present seems to be a good illustration for this question. But I think that's necessary to precise the question. Of course, in a general manner, rural and urban spaces are interdependent. Rural spaces produce food and amenities, and urban spaces produce consumer and rails, and they are economically melt. And of course, digital is increasing this interdependence. But the question seems to be, maybe the answer seems to be quite different. If by urban space, urban space refer not to urban space generally, but to the urban center whose rural space is dependent from. And the question is then, to what extent, in which domain, digital permits to a rural space or a small town to become autonomous from its historical urban polarity. And that's what we are going to try to discuss, to present by presenting a process we've developed between rural spaces and a university and a metropolitan university. And so we are trying to speak about 3 topics that were discussed yesterday. Young people living rural area, job opportunities or vacancies, and skill developments everywhere. So I'll try to be quick. Some evidence. Innovation and initiative abilities are as critical for rural areas as for metropolitan area. But for that, you need skills, you need knowledge, you need formation, so you need to have a link with the high-level institution, so with the university. But universities are more and more concentrated in the metropolis for different reasons, international concurrency, and so on. And so the young people from the metropolis, it's more easy for them to study and to find a job in the metropolis. So next slide, please. Oh, yeah. Donc, consequently, rural area, especially in mountains area, appear to be far distant from the university in two terms, geographically, but also sociologically. I don't know if it's correct in English. And in fact, young people in rural area have a lower, statistically, a lower training level. Some percent, some indicator for the French case. And if they want to make studies, they have to go away. And
sorry, there is a message. They can see the presentation. You got it. Thank you.
And more often, they didn't come back to their original native area. But also, that's also a problem for companies and socioeconomic stakeholders, because the link with university is a means to develop innovation skills, to get job opportunities and so on. And even to get internship, it's a real difficulty. So, faut que j'avance comme ça.
Can you manage remotely? Yes.
Yes. Just to illustrate very quickly, you see on these curves, it's for the department of Ardèche, which is a mountainous area in France. You see that every year, this area loses 1/3 of these young people, and they, faut que ça revienne. Voilà. Some of them or others come back, but in fact, the balance is negative. At the contrary, when you, for le Rhône, well, there is the agglomeration of Lyon, that's the contrary. The Rhône, thousands of young people, they leave, part of them leave after the studies, but thousands stay. And the question is the Department of Rhône able to propose job opportunities in quantity and in quality for these thousands of people as they leave another area that need to get young people, young graduated. And you see there the very special differences between two parts of the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region. And you see also with the nuage de points, the cloud of points, the evident link between the level of education and the level of income. So the question is really the question of economic development. So what we propose, imagine, that is to permit to any territories to access to the very diverse immaterial resources of academic. By immaterial, I mean without having the necessity to get an infrastructure building and so on. You have a list and an inventory of this, its internship, research contract, PhD inside a company, and so on. So how to permit to a very little company in a rural area to access to this kind of academic resources. So the digital digital is could be a real solution, but not in itself. You need to have a collective process, because, for example, some years ago there was the MOOC fashion, and it seems to be not very very efficient. And the aim is to try to elaborate a kind of cloud university accessible from anywhere. And the French government has initiated a project which is a connected campus, with 90 connected campus in France since 2 years. The idea is to create, animate a place with a workstation and above all the help of a dedicated coach. And the basic aim was to propose to so very young people to have a physical and a human framework for taking up and succeeding the first level of higher education. But in fact, it appears that the first voluntaries were not very young people, but young adults of 25 years, having a professional project, and in fact pursuing often master studies. So that see that we are more in a context of a continuous training process, not initial training. And so we said that this campus connecté could become a kind of a post-avancé, I don't know, advanced place of the university to propose to any kind of stakeholder, individual, student, companies, access to the very diverse academic resources. So, and for that, we have to inform and to form the coach about what one can attend from a university and how and who. And that's what we have done. And
1 minute.
1 minute to conclude. In what digital are changing the things in the link between one's rural territory or small town and the university. With the connected campus, you don't have to choose between installing a generic training or very specialized, which is economically risky. You don't have to invest in heavy equipment. You can reconcile lifelong training and local, but also distance work. You are no more, that's maybe the main thing, you are no more dependent of the university of proximity. You can access to the resources of any university in France or elsewhere. So you have a multiplication of your potential academic partners. And you can benefit also to the very new academic resources when they appear. And you permit to very small company factories to engage or implement a ready strategy, even if it's modest. And because you are using a form of progressive relationship with the university, not directly research, but first in internship, and then maybe after 2 or 5 years of internship, you begin a research contract. But therefore, digital is not a miraculous product. You need to have a governance, and every stakeholder have to make changes. I finish. Academic institutions have to accept and assume the notion of territorial responsibility, which that is often not the case. Local authorities, rural especially, must consider academic resources as a strategic tool for economical development, which That is not the case often. The very diverse socioeconomic stakeholders have to be conscious that they can and they may have to benefit to develop cooperation with academic institutions. And individual, in rural areas, there is often a kind of autocensure, self-prevented.
Yeah.
Have to be conscious as they are legitimate to aim at high-level formation. But for that, you need to create a kind of governance with these different stakeholders. And to conclude, actually, that it's not the minor virtue of digital to create this obligation.
Thank you very much. Comments. What I get is that we are conscious that know-how is easily distributed. Okay, here I have an up-to-date know-how. Click, and all the know-how of the world, you have it on your mobile phone. Distributing know-how from the university is a good tool to reduce the gap. But I leave you with a doubt and a question. Why all panelists are here physically? We comment later. It's not miraculous, right? It's not miraculous. I try to follow a program from MIT on quantum computing digitally lost. And when I had my coach discussing that, why I have to come to Boston? I cannot. He told me, you know what is the value of the physical campus after the lessons?
That's why it's necessary to have coaches.
But we are still physical. We are
Yes,
still physical.
Mm.
We use digital. I received Alexandra paper at 4:45 this morning. I was leaving. Marco. Thank you very much. We will have a summing up later. 10 minutes, Marco, with your movie.
Yeah.
Digital is also speed and acceleration. In fact, Marco asked me to be moderator 2 days ago. I had to cancel something, but
we arrange very fast.
This is a challenge of agility, flexibility, speed up, and what's right. Please.
Just 1 second that they upload the presentation.
How are we
Perfect.
taking care of workers?
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Marco. I'm the general manager of LAF. LAF is the acronym of Lean Experience Factory. Lean Experience Factory is a real model company, okay, with the real machines, real equipment, real workers, real people, and we produce a compressor.
Real, you mean physical?
Physical.
Because
So,
also digital is real.
yeah, no, but physical with the hardware, with everything, and we produce a compressor for household appliances. Okay, so a product very standard, very old. Let me say. Why we do that? Our goal is provide to our client, to our customer, a real experience of what it means a lean or a digital transformation. So we are like a theater that has one goal: give an experience to our client of what is a transformation for a non-performing status into a performing status. And after that, what is the digital transformation? So what is and what it could be the impact of the digitalizations? Digitalization along the entire value chain. So from product development ending to the after sales, going through the sales, procurement, maintenance, operations, so all the different aspects of the manufacturing. We are part of a global network of this digital capability center, as we call, The other one in Europe is in Aachen in Germany. Then another one is in Istanbul. Then in US, Middle East, and the Far East. These are some results of what are facing now the companies. Okay, I'm trying to give you the perspective of let's say not from the student, but from what is the pain and what is the company's challenges that they are facing today. Here are some numbers. So 65% of the digital transformation phase. For what? For lack of skills and knowledge, poor accountability and performance dialogue, insufficient leadership of the manager, and mismatch of aspiration within the organization. Okay, this is the critical failure factors. The critical success factors, what are? Building skills and knowledge, a clear communication to engage the stakeholders and the workers and the labor market, let's say, also for the retention, for the searching new people to hire, and for the retention of these new people. A very active leadership into design and create a clear roadmap for this digital transformation, and deployment of resources needed to accelerate the change. So make the things happen. Most of the cases that are performing a digital transformation, especially in the SMEs, but not only in the SMEs, honestly, we have our customers are from the SMEs of Italy, Europe, but also the biggest corporation from all over the world. And the problem that they are facing are always the same. Most of these projects of digital transformation that everybody are we speaking about it are not in a large scale. Most of them is on a pilot scale, in a POC. In some case, they are trying to extend it in an industrial case. But the impact that these technologies and this fourth revolutions has in the real creation of value is very poor still. Okay, probably the pandemic gave a boost into this transformation because we must do something different now, and probably also this war situation and with all the energy impact that we are facing, probably this could be another boost. But extending the piloting situation into a real, this is an example of the IoT, but with talking with all the other exponential technology, VR, robots, cobots, and so on, more or less is always the same. Why is happening this? Franco told us before, because there is a digital gap. We are using exponential technology that are growing much faster than what we can do, because we are not, our brain is super faster, is for sure more intelligent. Franco maybe is not agree, but is for sure, from my point of view, more intelligent than other artificial intelligence system, but we are not so fast as any other exponential technology. But we are using this exponential technology. So we are, from one side, our organization that are growing very fast, and on the other side, our organization, our people, that is the key elements of the organization, that are not able to following that speed. So what we can do, from my point of view, the capability building is the fastest and the powerful answer that we can give into that problem. Because the only element that we have is to create a strong skills at university level, but even before secondary school, faculty school, and in all the ecosystem of training in order to create the skills, the knowledge, the experience, and to maintain the ability of the people of all the levels, at the C levels, but also at the workers, to be able to try to do what? To try to be an organization more agile, more flexible, more resilient. Now with our national PNRR project and policy, the resilience word is very common. But this is what we needed to do. It's impossible to try to be as fast as the technological situation, but try to moving our curve into a more resilient and try to slowly up this curve and to increase the grade that we can put on that. This is one on the few elements that we can do and that can have an impact in our roadmap and our strategy in order to create a real value.
1 minute.
But what it means this? It means that only the training, only the transfer of knowledge or experiences about the technological aspect, about the exponential technology, it means not just that. Why? Because the performance is a result of inputs, mindset, and behavior. Okay? It just is not just technology. What has a great impact in a real transformation, digital transformation for companies, for the public administration, for the health system, for the schools ecosystem at each level, is the behavior that is just at the peak, is just what we see, but the basis is much bigger of what we have. So in order, I'm going fast, sorry, but I want to respect the time. In order to create a real sustaining transformation, we need to work also in the behavioral aspect. That is more related to the soft skills than on the hard skill. But both of them are very important if we want to create a real standing, a real successful transformation of our organization at each level that we are talking about. In the real world, physical, in the digital world, in the metropolitan area, as well as in the rural area. So this was my speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You missed something, Marco. You want to invite them to pay
Absolutely,
a visit? Okay.
absolutely.
It's on your way back eventually. So
I propose this.
can
Yeah.
touch and explore something digital for mainly blue collars operators, not only professor. We need professor, but sometimes we have to build up the compressor for the refrigerator.
Or to maintain that.
Or to maintain, to repair.
So if you're living by the plane, have a stop, it could be difficult. And I'm not suggest you to.
You go back by car and
but
you pass
if you go back by car, going back from Trieste
to Trento,
to Trento, you pass by Portogruaro as well as the other one. So if you want this afternoon, have a stop.
Inclusion means
a pleasure.
space. Ciao Marco, thank you.
you.
And now another clap for the incoming Alexandra, because the policymaker, you are at the end our representative of policymaker.
Okay, I will try to go as quick as possible. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Alexandra Tsvetkova. I lead Spatial Productivity Lab at the OECD Trento Center for Local Development. And predictably, I will be talking about digitalization and productivity. So I have just 3 parts to my talk, so I will try to really rush. So in some cases, you will have to believe me because I will not have time to explain some details on my slides. I will start with some type of introduction, just thinking why we talk about digital when we talk about productivity. And then I would have 2 stories for you to illustrate the opportunities, but also to highlight the challenges. Okay, let's do this. Why digital? And here I think we can all go into very long list. We are talking about it for 2 days now, but I wanted to ask you, how many of you regularly teleworked, at least for some period of time in 2019? It is the year before the pandemic. Okay, no coffee or nobody teleworked. Now, how many of us teleworked at least for some time during 2020, which is the year of pandemic? Anybody? Anybody? Cool. How many of us worked for a company that had to close during the pandemic because it couldn't continue operations during the lockdowns? Anybody? No, and that's the point. We don't really need to talk about all the reasons. It is just digital allows companies to continue working and allows companies to continue working better. So if we go into more broader kind of categories, my answer to why digital matters for productivity is that it allows people, firms, and regions or places to work and to work better, full stop. So that's the answer. We really care about productivity and we care about digital because, digital increases productivity. What is also important, digital can decrease inequalities. And it was already touched upon, I think, Ricardo before. It was highlighted by Franco, inequalities among people. But what about inequalities across places? We have a lot of lagging places that cannot benefit from globalization, who cannot benefit from, all the cool things that are happening in large cities, right? So we believe that digital, because it can be technically implemented anywhere, it can help these places to close the gap. So far, so good. Digital is good. It increases productivity, it reduces inequality, right? The answer is no, not necessarily. Because what really happens and how it works and which effects we would have on the ground depends on many factors, and labor markets and how they use digital are a very important part of this kind of link. So this brings me to my first story about digital labor markets, right? Digital labor markets. Europe some time ago decided that it wants to be green and it wants to be digital. So we had plans, we had expectations, business as usual. In 5 years, we will reach such and such milestones, right? Boom, COVID. We kind of got 5 years of digitalization in half the year, right? So labor market had to become digital, at least in some occupations and some industries. So let's look at the Alpine regions, EUSALP regions, and see if we can detect this massive increase in digital in labor markets. So here I will stop a little bit and spend a little bit of time describing this whatever slide, right? So this is data from Burning Glass Technologies online job postings. It shows the lines here show the share of online job postings that require either advanced ICT skill, which would be data analysis or specific programming languages, or general ICT skills, which would be just sending email, using computer, etc., etc. On the charts, you see lines which are average within Alpine countries, but the average is only around EUSALP regions. So these charts, these lines show average for EUSALP regions in 6 countries. We do not have data for Liechtenstein. The blue bar is approximately beginning of the pandemic. So what we take out of these charts is that in some countries, indeed, we see massive increase in demand for advanced ICT skills, specifically in Italy and France. We do not see much changes in the rest of the countries, in the rest of the EUSALP regions. And we do not really see much change in demand for general ICT skills. Okay, in Italy, kind of it was at the expense, but still. So the point here is that when we talk about, digitalizing labor markets, it really depends where we look at and what the situation on the ground is. So for Italy and France, indeed, we need to do what Ricardo was talking about. It is really satisfying this increased demand for ICT, advanced ICT skills in the labor market, right? In other countries, in other EUSALP regions, it doesn't seem to be as necessary because the demand didn't shoot up. So here, maybe we need to figure out how to digitalize these economies. They are probably not digitalized yet. So reasons can be multiple. You probably would believe me if I would say that it might be linked to prevalence of SMEs in these regions, because SMEs on average, they are less digitized and they are less likely to be digitized. This chart here, I will not go into details, but it shows share of respondents among SMEs that increased use of digital tools during the pandemic, and it is shown by size. So if you compare in the left panel, if you compare companies without employees, it has the lowest share of increased ICT tools use compared to larger companies. So the bigger company, more likely it is to use ICT skills. So maybe our focus before we really digitalize labor markets, we need to help SMEs in these regions to digitalize first, right? Another one is more of an anecdote. This comes from survey that was conducted at our request by Italian Ministry of Economic Development. They were asking Italian cooperatives, so it's not focusing on Alpine region, but Italian cooperatives, how they changed the use of digital skills during the pandemic. And some things come up, but what really struck me, and that's the kind of the bold square around it, is that cooperatives that didn't use digital, they didn't start using digital during the pandemic. So all the changes that we see, and we see this increase of using digital, is most likely happening in companies that have been already using digital. So here, aside from, you know, financing for SMEs to help them, teaching SMEs, it is also can be cultural thing, at least in Italian cooperatives, but I cannot really generalize here. And then elephant in the room. For each kind of part of my presentation, I will have a little elephant in the room thing. And for SMEs, when we try to push for digitalization, security is very important. So if you look at this chart, it shows, again, it's a survey. It shows how many or what percentage of companies use specific types of digital security tools. It can be VPN use, encryption, et cetera, et cetera. If you look across all these dimensions, smaller firms are lagging behind. So when we push for digitalization, so it's like a Russian doll, you know, we need to digitalize labor markets, but for this we need to digitalize SMEs at least, and then we need to ensure that they are secure, they are safe. So that's the bottom line. I will not go over this one. So the bottom line of this part of my talk is that it takes two to tango. You cannot talk about digitalization of labor markets if we are not talking about digitalization of SMEs in specific regions. And then digital security is extremely important, and it will be increasingly important in the future. And now my last story, if I can see it, let's go here. It is teleworking. Again, it's one of the really obvious manifestations of digitalization in the labor market. There is a lot of work about it. We all teleworked, coming back to who teleworked in 2020. But eventually, I would like to zoom a little bit into the ability of teleworking to help communities and places reaching national or natural amenities with decreasing population, with aging population, because it might be some additional opportunity for such places. Okay, start with the data. Again, looking at EUSALP regions. This chart shows change in regular teleworking between 2019, pre-pandemic, and end of 2020. The kind of the lines are split by country, and it shows the biggest change in EUSALP regions of a country, and the smallest change, and in the middle is average for the country, the whole country, not really EUSALP region. So we see that, first of all, countries differ. Some of them like didn't change at all, Slovenia, Switzerland, but some of them shoot up a lot. So we see quite a bit of uptake of teleworking, but this is our, and then of course there is a lot of policy attention. There are plenty of things. You don't need to read this slide. It is here just to show you that there are different types of ways to support SMEs to switch to teleworking. And these efforts are implemented across the world, different countries, different regions. What really interests me here is the specific flavor of teleworking, which we call digital nomads, or maybe there are plenty other fancy names for them. But it is people who are working remotely for usually digitally advanced companies, and they can live anywhere. So the hope is that these people will come to Alpine regions and they will rejuvenate, you know, the communities. They will bring the tax money to spend on local services. They will build local, you know, I don't know, ecosystems of knowledge, you know, like-minded individuals. It's something that really good for places that we're seeing their young residents to leave their communities. But okay, probably I will go to this one. Trenta, to my knowledge, is one of the leaders in teleworking. They were the first ones in Italy to introduce teleworking for public service, for public administration. And right now they at least are exploring how these digital nomads can be, you know, contributing to the development of the region, of the province. My colleagues at the OECD Trento Center has developed already actually place-based toolkit for local development that is based on teleworking. So we are kind of piloting it. The contact information is here if you would like to Google it or reach out to my colleagues. But then again, I need to talk a little bit about elephant in the room, right? So again, we are zooming into EUSALP regions. And we are looking at the actual internet speed. This is a company, big data company that really collects specific actual, not what your provider promises you, what actually happens on the ground. So what it shows, again, average across EUSALP regions within each country. We have speed for fixed internet connection and speed for mobile internet connection. And the lines are showing deviation from the national average. And if you can see, in many cases, EUSALP regions are lagging behind national average in the speed of their internet connection. So if we want to come back to, you know, teleworking as a strategy for development, probably we're missing something here. We do see some increasing speed in France, but it doesn't even reach the national average. And we see quite good tendency in Italy for mobile speed, which shoots above the national average. So that's really promising, but, you know, a lot of work needs to be done. I think that's it. To conclude, my third part of my talk is I wanted to say something more definite about attracting digital nomads, but frankly, I will be really honest here, we do not know if it is a strategy that can really turn around communities. We hope it will, but it is something to be seen. So I'm putting something relatively safe here. Working from anywhere is the future, but we do need infrastructure for it. Especially in the alpine, terrain makes it a little bit harder to accomplish. So that's pretty much it from my side. Thank you so much. I hope I'm on time.
You got the time, and we have a few minutes to make comment. Stay, because from her observatory, we had a lot of figures, okay? Figures that we don't have to comment. We have to read deeply, and of course are available. Your presentation is available.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So we will make our reflection and investigation and comparison and whatsoever. But Alexander, now what to do? What is your recommendation? Because policymaker, I want your what we have to do to make infrastructure. Yes, fair enough. but just to make a conclusion, mixing up our comments. Marco cannot move physical workers from a factory. Okay, we need it. We have to hybridize workers, etc., etc., etc. Lawyers, if you don't need lawyers, but Riccardo, that makes me a lot of compliments. He is already converted. You can prepare your process by home. Something that has not been mentioned, you conclude working from everywhere. Anywhere. Working from any time, we must add. Yes. Because it's meaningless. Working time is meaningless, but I'm looking at you, Riccardo. You fix working time, and there is a proposal from public administration. Who is from public administration? There is a proposal, okay, made by unions to stop the internet side of the public administration to make a fixed hourly time. Did you read that? Totally stupid and crazy. But it is ridiculous. But there are rules totally obsolete because technology is moving. And if you want to check your family condition on the national, you cannot do it on Saturday because the server must have rest. Check it. Can you confirm, right? So please, policies.
Policies. No, it was a really deceptively simple question with no simple answers. What I was trying to say, and I think probably you would agree with me, there is no easy, straightforward solutions that apply equally well in different places and different types of places. So they probably the safe, I mean, we can go into a lot of, nitty-gritty discussions about peculiarities, but the safe to say would be that each place, or let's say each type of places, would need tailored approach, because places have different abilities, different assets, but they also have different challenges, or reasons for these challenges might be different in different regions. And it is always good. I mean, I do not say we always have the ability to see what's going on and really kind of really influence it, but we need to try and understand what are the causes, what the resources we can use, and then use it for the best. Again, in terms of digitalization, depending on what you have, if you have really digitally advanced companies or companies that are able to digitalize quickly and use this, right? Then we really need to look at the labor market and make sure that they have the skills. So universities step in, training centers step in, and they provide specific training, because a lot of stuff, like, again, we are looking at this Burning Glass data, which scraps all the online job postings. Aside from specific postings, they also scrap keywords from the requirements. So it can be specific skills that companies are looking for in a specific region. Sometimes we can even identify which company is looking for this specific skill. And then you can always see if your university offers it. I don't know, C++, does your university teach it? Python, does your university teach us? There are plenty of words that I don't even know what they mean because they are too advanced. But companies, let's say in Trentino, are looking for it. And then universities can step in, right? So here we need to really digitalize the skills of the workers in the labor force. In other cases, like the regions in Slovenia, it looks like the companies are not catching up on digitalization. So maybe here the focus should be helping companies to digitalize first. And then for this one, as I said, there might be different reasons. They can be lacking access to finance, then it is one policy, right? Or they can be, I don't know, they can be lacking skills. They would say, we do not need to do it because we will not find people to perform these functions. Then again, we go back to universities. Or it can be culture, because, I did it like this, my father did it like this, I'm not going to do anything. And then it is culture. We hope that it will change, but it is not really within policy scope. We can talk a lot, we can do all the publicity campaigns. Will it get us somewhere? I mean, it depends. So again, there is no one answer, but my hope is that with the increasingly digitalized world and our ability to track data, we would be better able to tailor our interventions or our support or our assistance in a way that really helps, and not just for us to tick something and said like, hello, we did it. Thank you so much. Did we help anyone? That's kind of outside of our, because we also need to track how much we helped, how much we changed. And I think that's increasingly important to, to benchmark our help, our performance by what exactly we did and how many people we help and in which ways we help, and if it did any difference.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Quite wide your specification, quite wide, but we will keep it in mind. I want to conclude with an applause to our government. Today I have the tie for Italy, right. Notice, because yesterday with the last decreto, in between there is an enlargement for Industry 4.0 to software that is increasing the incentive from 20 to 50%. And this is the result of a battle that we did as Polytechnology, because the importance of software is evident. Okay, if you buy a CNC, you have a reduction. If you buy an artificial intelligence system, it was 20%. since yesterday. Okay, we are waiting publication, etc. But is let's say soundable push to software, to high digitalization, to artificial intelligence. Thank you very much. Perfectly on time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Coffee.